This will be Luke, part 21 of Luke, of correcting the text. To find the truthful words of Luke, and I'm going to start at chapter 19, verse 43. And we got to remember that Jesus had entered the courtyard to remove those that were selling and buying, not the temple. It's a house for It's a house for meeting with our Creator. A temple is where they put the false gods at. Idols are the false god. Anyways, Jesus kept yelling at them. It is prophesied, my house will be a house for their offerings, not for prayer, but for offering. They brought offerings because they didn't obey one of the 12 commandments, and this offering was to atone for they wanted to be forgiven so they could still live within the promised land and have the promises from our Creator passed on to their descendants. But they will make it not a robber's den, but a marketplace. We have a marketplace. They're selling and buying. People would say, well, I can interpret that as a robber's den, but a marketplace, as you know, you can go from one vendor to the other to get your best deal. And Jesus taught daily at his gate, at his temple. They aren't chief, they're tribes, priests, and elders were trying to disgrace him. Now I'm adding the word elders here, and you're going to see that up here in the text as I keep going here. Let me point it out right now, right here. This is the word elders, and I didn't add it in. It comes from the text, so I put them there. This was what would be known as leading men. So get it in there correctly. They were trying to disgrace him, but they could not bring up anything against him. And all these words here is I'm just using two words, okay? And the people were listening to his teachings, okay? These words aren't needed. He was teaching our people at his gate and taught his gospel, not preached his gospel, preaching his gospel, taught his gospel. And it's the tribe's priest. So this verse here, they asked Jesus, I'm sure because the question is going to be a question mark. Tell us by whose authority do you do or tell Jesus, they asked Jesus, tell us by whose authority did you remove those buying and selling? Because he already kicked them out. So they're coming up to him after, or whom gave you this authority? They want the name of who gave you the authority or the person who was sent with the authority to tell him who did it, like an underling of the guy that gave him. So what Jesus is going to turn around here and ask him, I will ask you a question, answer, and I will tell you. And then he asks them the baptisms by John, not just one baptism, but all of them that John's been doing. Were they commanded from? Here they're leaving the words out that were they commanded from heaven. This would mean that they would think that you would say that, well, our Creator is heaven from heaven. So I made it more direct. Where were these baptisms, were they commanded from YV or from men? And they reasoned among themselves, saying, if we say from YV, now this YV can't be, it's got to be like this, showing that they don't know. This shows that you know he's our Creator. This maybe I should change to just black text. And they're using his name, but not the way the people believe. And they say, and he will say, why do not, he, meaning Jesus will say, why do you not believe him about me, because John was telling them who I am, who he is. Here he goes on to say, or they're going on to say, their answer that they're discussing is people will stone us, and stoning them, they're going to die, so we don't need the word die. We know what stoning means. And they believe John is his prophet. So it would have come from our Creator. So they were sneaky, and they did that. They said, we do not know where it came from. So it doesn't matter that, it's they don't know where. We do not know is better. Jesus said, neither will I answer you. Oh, what authority I do these things. But the object is he didn't either. He just needed to answer, because we know the conversation. It's not like we have to reinvent the conversation to know why those words are there or needed. If you're to comprehend, you don't need double word speaking. Then he taught parable, and I changed vine growers to grape growers, because the vine has already been established. So it's the grape growers, and they trim the vine so the sun can get to the grapes. And when he's on a journey for a long time, at harvest time, he sent not a slave, his servant, not vine, but grape growers, to not give, but to receive his share. The produce, we know it's grapes, so the word grapes is, you guys shouldn't complain about that. The grape growers beat on them, left them empty-handed. And then another servant, not a slave, they beat him and sent him away. A lot of this text here I just went over, so it's pretty much saying the same thing to do those corrections. Here, they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. They killed him, plain and simple. Then he will come. Oh, they're talking about the owner coming back. What will he do to kill these grape? Will he come and kill these grape growers and rent out his vineyard to others? We don't need them to speaking about what they did. They know he was speaking against them. Then he looked at them and said, again, he's trying to put these together as what is this prophecy, not what's written, but what is prophecy. If it's written, it's prophecy. Jesus telling it this is what's going to happen. It's a prophecy about his stone the builders rejected had become his cornerstone. Now, directly knowing that he is telling them that I am the cornerstone, that he's going to rebuild on it and get rid of you guys. And this is what is being told. This is false, because you can't have whoever falls on the stone will be broken into pieces. No, that's not true. It's because Jesus is coming to his that believes him at that time, so they would not be broken into pieces, and whomever falls on will be scattered like dust. We know that's absolutely untruthful words. And since we had elders before, I'm adding the word elders in, not tried, but they wanted to arrest him, but they feared they wouldn't have tried, they wanted to arrest him. It makes more sense. They feared his crowd. And then they also understood he spake against him. Well, that was pretty obvious, because they wanted to arrest him. To speak against a scribe or an elder or the high priest was something that they had said that it's an arrestable. Israelis being able to arrest Hebrews, being able to arrest other Hebrews. Okay, when I use the Hebrews, I'm meaning all Hebrews, and I'm trying to divide them into Israelis, as I call them. Those are the believers of Jesus, and the Jews are those that do not believe in Jesus. So they watched him with spies, and they didn't need to be pretend. They were spies in order to catch him in some statement, to deliver him to their governor. Now, this verse saying that they do this, we also have two other books done, and both of those stories, only the high priest knows how it's going to be handed over to the governor. Here, it's kind of like they know that they're going to hand him over to the governor, so that's not really true. They're still wanting to arrest him. So this is just a little bit different than what's being said. So some of this will be left in here, and maybe some will be taken out when I combine them together. And then they know that you teach that correctly. Can't be the word correctly can't be here. If it was correctly, they would not be distorting the text. They would not have gotten rid of the manuscripts. Now I know people talk about like the manuscripts would have got old and rotten and stuff like that. So I want to show this again. And it's important that it is, you guys know this. So I do bring it up from time to time, and that's this here. This here is from Egypt, and it is they call it a manuscript, but it actually is written on leather like a scroll would be, although it's just so large. But here, okay, anyways, if it was even written on a manuscript, okay, if it was written on papyrus paper, and now how old do you think this is? Down here, it's 2,000 to 2,300 years BC. So we're looking at something of 4,000 years old, and look how pristine it is. If they wanted to keep the original writing on the scrolls, we would still have them. They would have been more important than anything. So they would have had, we would still have the scrolls today. They needed to get rid of the text so they could write and put all this stuff in between. And what I have done is already done a lot of prophets and Psalms, the books of the prophets, and showed you that there is a hidden format in them to show that the first writer's words still exist. They didn't get rid of them. They worked around them, and they did this, and then they put them into sentences, and then they later divided up and put numbering on them to tell us what words are what words. And I'm not sure when these numbers were added, but it doesn't really matter. But they would have the word correctly. They knew that it was not correct. They were just saying his truths correctly because they didn't believe he was there. So they're trying to suck Jesus in that, hey, we're building you up here. And then it says, you are not partial to any or teach any way of YV but truth. This they wouldn't have said anyway down here, but you speak partial in any or teaching, meaning you don't bend the rules for anyone. You teach what you know, and you don't defer to anybody, and you don't try to make anyone happy. But this text doesn't need to be in the text when I get done here. Because here's the question that they're going to ask him, and this is about a law. Now remember, these are scribes. Is it lawful for us to pay taxes to Caesar? And he knew the trickery and said, show me the silver used. I'm getting rid of the word denarius. Detected. He didn't need to say detected. He just knew of their trickery. And whose likeness. Now, I got rid of the word inscription here, but it is likeness and inscription in symbols, and I have that in other texts, so I don't need it here. Does it have? And they said Caesar's, and he told them, give to Caesar's the things that are Caesar's. Now, Jesus did not say, and to YV the things that are YV. You cannot give our Creator anything that isn't already His. So the editor that's writing this, or those that are writing this, have no understanding, flat out unbelief of a Creator who created the universe. Thus, they were unable to trap him in the presence of their people so they could arrest him and say he's teaching falsely to the people. And marveling at his answers, they became silent. We don't need this in the text. Then some of they want Sadducees. Since Sadducees are mentioned right along with Pharisees, I think 4 out of the 6 times that the Sadducees is actually listed. I know that the majority of the words Pharisee are judges, because Jesus tells us when you gather the verses up, Jesus says they like sitting in the seat of Moses. So we know that Pharisees should relate to judges at all times. There's a couple times that it doesn't, though. But the Sadducees are mentioned with them. So who's with the judges? Usually the lawyers, okay? So that's why I have lawyers. Not that the Sadducees are saying there's no resurrection, but so it's the lawyers now coming in, and they're going to question about Moses. So before we had scribes, now we've got lawyers coming in asking the technical question. If a brother dies and has no wife, but he has no son, should his brother is to marry his wife, meaning share his love with his brother's wife, to raise a son, not an offspring, but a son, needs to be a son, for his brother's inheritance. So that is the law that's there. And I've corrected it to make sure that it's the son to get because I know the law, okay? So that's pretty easy to know. We don't need to have 7 brothers because we got just 3 or 4 here. I think there's 3 being mentioned. The oldest received her, but he died without us giving her a son, and so did the second. So the next brother, and the third married her. Yeah, this should be 3. Okay, and then they're asking when they all die. I got they all died because they got this text here. And so what I'm doing is I'm including her, and we don't need these words. They all die, leaving him no son. Okay. Now they're asking after their death, whose wife will she be? Jesus told them, man on earth, not of this age, but all man on earth, marry, meaning share their love, male and female share their love. This is the definition of the word marry. Don't get that confused with the secular understanding that faggots can be married. They aren't sharing their love. That's our Creator has rules for those that were in the Sinai to kill them. So there is no word in the Hebrew text or the Greek text talking about that kind of way of life as being married. No. The word married means share your love between male and females only. Not consider worthy attainment of that age doesn't mean no. That's just double speak. I can put here, after your death, you do not marry, plain and simple. And then Jesus comes down here and says, you become like angels. Okay. I think I added this word like you become, yeah, because it's going to be you become angels. You become the angels. you become like angels. And then called sons of resurrection. No, you are going to be named afterwards. You either enter into heaven or you don't. Now it comes to these words here, that the dead rise. Even Moses showed passage about burning bush, where he calls the Lord the son of Abraham, YV of Abraham, YV of Isaac, YV of Jacob. Now he is not YV of the dead, of the living. All live for him. This is what happens when you change title. It was calls the Lord God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, but he is known as YV. He knows it's not of Abraham. There's no way of being able to say Abraham has anything to do with our Creator. So with this of word being added, this is just not. This is just not needed to be said. And here you don't consider him dead because he's actually. We know that there is no such thing as death. So what we have here is just verses that are going to be thrown out. Jesus already explained it. You'll become like angels. Now, some of our scribes, because those were lawyers, some of the scribes said to Jesus, "You have answered correctly that you don't have marriage afterwards." And that is in the text. So the lawyers might not know exactly the right verse to go to explain that there is no death. Now, here, they don't need to have courage or not. They were there to question him. And then question him again any longer about anything. It can be used with the word again. Now, he asked the scribes, "How do you teach your Christ?" No, it has to be king. It has to be, because it's written in Psalms. We're going to have right here written in Psalms. You don't need that though. I will have that here later. But for David said, "My Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand." And to see how this is, Jesus is saying, it means our Creator said to my Lord, which is Jesus, sit at my right hand. And this is what it has to be, because he's talking about a king that will have a king in heaven forever. So it wouldn't be Christ. Okay. So they're asking him about David's son. And as you know, even today, they're calling a Trinity. Jesus has a virgin birth, but that makes our Creator a liar. And how many times does it make our Creator a liar? Let me show you something here. From the time of Abraham, Genesis 17:6, "I'm going to make kings shall come forth from you." And this is talking about his promises between him and Abraham's descendants. And then down here in chapter 18, verse 18, "And in him all nations of the earth will be blessed." And down here, "In your seed all nations of the earth shall be blessed." That means Jesus is going to be born a king, okay, through the lineage of Abraham. That's why some of the text Jesus says, and I think it's also John is telling them that even though you think your son's from Abraham, that doesn't matter, okay? It matters with the telling the truth, that it's through the lineage from we know from Adam and Eve. And don't say there's just one Adam and Eve. There were other Adam and Eves. That's why there are more people in India and in China today, because our Creator made Adam's Eve of all different races. So now that you know that, and then it comes to Noah, and then from Noah, he gives this blessing or favorableness to Shem, and then through Abraham is Shem. That's why the sons are to marry women from Shem and not from the uh, uh, Canaan's descendants. And don't say Ham's because Ham is mentioned once. Replace that with Canaan, and then you'll be correct with the three sons of Abraham. And that's why Canaan lived in the land. They weren't called Hams; they were called Canaanites or Canaan's descendants. But he's asking them, "How do you teach this? Okay, how do you teach that through David's son's seed shall become a king?" And as you know, even today, they don't. They're teaching their God, and to have trickery of words, it's a virgin birth. They make Mary the female goddess. They make the word grace, faith, and other words like that in the text to mean female goddess. You're not reading them that way. That's good, but that's what they've done to the text. There's so much double speak. The American Indians were always said that Americans talk with a forked tongue like a snake, like they're saying two different things when they're talking. But here, they don't reply anywhere in the text, so I had to add that but our scribes did not answer Jesus. And then while the people were listening, he said to his disciples, beware of the scribes. They walk around in long robes. Now we know that the scribes have their robes different than the judges' robes, okay, because these are long robes. And they like greetings in marketplaces, and they are like the judges who sit in places of honor at banquets. So those words, I'm getting to the point of what's going on here is the truth. Like devour, they take. These judges were those that could judge, and they were taking the widows' homes from them. But for parents, they offer long petitions. These will receive my condemnation. I don't know if I should change that word, make it shorter or whatever. Let me see if I've got what's in the text here. Here we have the word condemnation, and I could actually use 9 times in the New Testament, the so-called New Testament. Judgment 1 or 15 times. Yeah, I'm going to leave it. I would say damnation, but I'm not going to. That's good enough. And what was the other one here? Okay, I guess I was just wondering about that word there. This one here. Oh, the word my yes, I added this. So I better put that in. That's what I was checking to see if I added that, and I did. So rich are putting in their coins into the donation box, not treasury, but donation box. He's calling it a gifts, but they're actually coins. It only has little slots, so it's not like they're putting in cookies or stuff like that for the priest. They're putting money in the donation box. So that means it was a donation box that they don't go around collecting for these priests that don't believe in our Creator. But there's so much that you are doing wrong and being fooled by. It makes me sick. Wonders how you are even Christians today. You don't think, you just follow along, whatever they say. Wake up. put in 2 copper coins. And now I'm leaving the word copper coins here. I think I removed it in the last text, but this will say copper coins. But it should be, yeah, I'm going to get rid of copper coins. I'm going to say put in 2 coins. Because they have money as well, but I got somebody out here working. Looks like somebody's going up the telephone pole here. And they told him this poor widow put in more than the richer. Not all of them, but the richer. Okay. And he's explaining they put out from what was their surplus. She gave from what she was living on. Yes, the poor women, poor people live day to day, week to week, where the wealthy, they have this surplus. So that's how that verse needs to be cleaned up. Some of his disciples were talking about YHVH'S house, not a temple, and it was adorned, it was built with blocks of granite. Now, I pretty much broke down the story last time. I don't have my camera on, but yes, when you understand the truth, they aren't stones, they're granite blocks. David had 80,000 hewers. And Moses, or not Moses, but was Solomon, was there to petition our Creator when they were bringing in the utensils from the tent for meeting and establishing the house. He said, "We made a house forever," and that's a granite block. Stones don't go together, and they last forever, so they're granite blocks. Votive gifts. No, that isn't it. Stones and votive gifts. No. They were made of blocks from granite. So he told them his house, not these things, this house you are looking at, the days are coming, not which, but when, not one block will be left upon another. Now, here we know that it's 70 years after that time. Let's see. I guess it's the words above it. I can't remember because I've had to do this video over. I got so far and then I looked over at the screen and there was no text. There was just me. So I don't know what I touched to do that. But anyways, can't remember what was in the other videos to this video, if I went over them or not here. But anyways, it's granite blocks, and I quickly give you a quick summation of why. The disciples asked him, therefore these, not these things, this. When will this happen? Or when will this be that they're going to tear it all down? And what sign? Well, Jesus says there's going to be no sign, so we don't need to have these words at all. There's no such thing as divination from the stars. He said, be sure that you not mislead anyone, for many will come in my name saying, I am like he, and the time is near. Do not follow them. And I have to add the word like he, because there are many people today that say, I'm a prophet and I'm going to teach you, or I'm a disciple and I'm going to teach you. But there's other people that fool people by saying, I am like Christ. They're like him, but because they have to refer to him, they have to have the word like and not he, and then they would be understanding what they're talking about. It has to be like he, meaning like Jesus, and he would refer to himself in the third person here. They will hear of wars, disasters, mine are not to be terrified, added those words, because it says, do not be afraid. Mine are not to be terrified. Or not these things, but those things will take place, meaning these disasters and wars throughout time. But their ending does not follow them, meaning their ending does not follow after a war or after a disaster. Okay, this is what Jesus is saying here. Immediately, don't need that word. I'm thinking this will be the last one I go through right now for this video, because he's already saying wars and disasters. So war, nation against nation, that's wars. There'll be earthquake in various places, plagues, famine, and these are already been said, so don't need that. And great signs from heaven. No, Jesus has already said this many times, so he wouldn't not preach against it and then agree with it. So there's no fortune telling that we know there. When you understand we have a creator, our creator dictates everything for us. So there's no karma, there's no good fortune, there's no such thing as luck. It's just, it happens by the will of our creator. But the ending does not follow them. They will lay their hands on you and deliver you. Oh, see, this is abruptly changing the subject, because this is almost like speaking about when he sends them out to the world, the rest of the world, to preach about Jesus. Some would say they're apostles at that time. They're still, I'm getting rid of the word apostle, because disciples mean those are the ones that were there, were sent out to teach about Jesus. And these are the instructions to his disciples. Okay. So it will lead to an opportunity to give your testimony, but this will be your opportunity to give your testimony of me. So they're talking about delivering you into prison. This wasn't, Jesus made an uproar in all the promised land. And then, like we know, like the text will say, he sends them to preach in the rest of the Roman kingdom. Okay. Not to other nations. People just, when they say a word, they don't understand the concept of the time, because they don't really study. They just follow the other guy over the cliff, talking nonsense. This here is the word I added, not to resist, but to refute. This is not really gonna. It's a possibility, but it doesn't. It's not an all answer. So I'm not going to have Jesus have questionable wording put into the text. We're going to make it as truthful as possible. Some of you will die, okay, because you will be hated on account of my name. And we know that they were killed, the 11 disciples that were out. Or at least that's the way the text, they have it written. But remember who's writing our history. So history is not what you think it is. It's pretty much made up by those that don't believe in a creator. This doesn't need to be said at all. Oh, I'm going on too long here. But this will be the last text I go over. When you see Jerusalem surrounded, you will know that it is for its destruction. Then Israelis are flee. Not Judea, they're Judea is the area, but all Israelis from all over the area were going to flee because they're going to try to, because it seems that by this text, Jesus is telling us that Rome is going to come in and try to kill everybody and anybody that's a Christian, okay, who become what's known as a Christian. So they will flee from their hills, and those in the cities will leave. So there's Jesus telling why Israelis scattered after the Rome came in and had them tear down the house and start killing anyone believing there is a true creator. But that's because they were onto their gods, so they didn't want their gods overthrown by the true creator. They just had no concept or no life of understanding that there is a creator of everything.